Hello, in this video we're going to talk about how much iodine is too much. My name is Dr. Taranella and we're going to discuss a situation with iodine and how much is too much, too little, some of the testing you might want to do to figure out if you have too much or how much you should be supplementing with. If you are taking too much, some of the problems that can occur to your thyroid and your health in general. So if this interests you, keep watching. We're going to discuss the details. Okay, so how much iodine is too much? So we're going to get into that in just a second, but I want to give you a little background on why iodine is important and why this question is important to begin with. So iodine is an essential trace mineral that is important. Mainly, it's most commonly associated with thyroid function, and a large portion of the population was deficient in iodine in the early 1900s, and that caused iodine to be, so to solve this problem, they introduced iodine into the salt, and it's known as iodized salt now. And for the most part, that sort of took care of most of the iodine deficiency, by and large, in the United States. Then, recently in the last maybe 20 years or so, more and more people are using natural salt like sea salt and Himalayan salt. And these, by and large, do not have iodine in them, not nearly to the degree that iodized salt is. So if you are somebody that is living in an area where there's not a lot of iodine in the soil, where you're getting your foods from areas that do not have much iodine, or you're not eating iodine from other sources, then you may be deficient in iodine. Iodized salt is not the only place we get salt, though. However, it's also in things like seafood. If you go out to eat, and generally they're putting more salt in the food, and they're using iodized salt in most instances. It's also in cheese and some vegetables and things like that. So the RDA for salt is around 150 micrograms per day, and your body cycles through about 100 micrograms per day. So you really don't need to consume a whole lot on a day-to-day basis. However, your total body load, like the total amount of iodine in your body, is around 15 to 20 milligrams, and it's probably dependent on your size and whatnot. But when you're deficient, depending on how long you've been deficient, it will take your body a while to get those levels, the 15 to 20 milligrams, back up to a sufficient amount. So it may take months or even a year of supplementing with small amounts to get that level up, because you don't want to do too much all at once. So iodine, your thyroid in particular, can be pretty sensitive to the amount of iodine you're consuming. So too much iodine can disrupt the thyroid function, just like too little can also disrupt the thyroid function. So if you don't get it right, you have increased chance of Hashimoto's, high thyroid or hypothyroid, or hyperthyroid, and then low thyroid or hypothyroid. So we want to look at each one of these three different types of scenarios: autoimmune, low thyroid, high thyroid, individually, so we can sort of better sort out how you can safely take your iodine. Okay, so in trying to figure out how much iodine is too much, or how much iodine do you need, we want to look at some research and some ideas behind what happens if you take too much or don't get it quite right. So for hyperthyroid, if you're already like markedly deficient, and you start taking moderate to higher doses of iodine, it could induce something called thyrotoxicosis, which is basically a severe hyperthyroid state. You get palpitations, anxiety, sweating, can't sleep. It's a very uncomfortable state. So another scenario with autoimmune thyroid issues or Hashimoto's is, some people that have even mildly elevated autoantibodies may not even know it, and they start taking iodine, and it can worsen or exacerbate this problem. Even those with normal thyroid antibodies, so like low levels or none, not outside the normal range, we should say. But if you have like a susceptibility, genetic susceptibility, or even just in your family of having Hashimoto's, taking iodine can induce Hashimoto's or increase the amount of antibodies that are being produced. So So that begs the question of like how high a dose is too high or how much is too much. So there's a study done in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and they looked at to see what a moderate to high dose would do in people that have normal thyroid function. And these were in healthy Chinese population, and they were randomly assigned to receive different doses of iodine. So it was 400 micrograms and up. And they found that people that received the 400 micrograms started to see a decrease in thyroid function. Now, not all of them did, but about 5% of the participants that did get the iodine started to get a decline in the thyroid function. And as that dose went up, the amount of people that saw a decline in thyroid function also went up. So as much as 50% at the 200 microgram dose. So usually, the upper recommended dose for iodine is around 1.5 micrograms. It's 1,100 micrograms is what's usually, thought of as like the upper limit. But as this study illustrates, you don't even need this much to potentially cause a problem. So it's really, to me, highlights the idea that you really want to know what your iodine levels are before you start, slamming a bunch of it in. Also, to a certain extent, too, what your autoantibody levels are. So, with that being said, too, most people that take iodine will be fine with it. It's not going to cause any like long-lasting permanent problems, but it can. And so the idea is that, the simplest way to approach this is to just get your iodine level checked before you go ahead and start taking even small amounts. It's a good idea. If your levels are normal, then you could still take a small amount, but you probably want to be more cautious. So the test is called a serum plasma iodine test, and it's done through a simple blood test. Most labs do it. It is expensive. The cash price is expensive, so if you have insurance, you probably want to use that. If it is low, the idea is that you can, that means generally, it's safe for you to take it, but depending on how low it is will depend on your dose. So how much more you're going to need to take, is going to be dependent on how low your level is. So if you're below 35 micrograms per liter, or basically those are the units. So it's 35 is what the number will be. You probably want to, if you're on that lower end, below the 35 range, you're going to want to start with a lower dose. It's probably best for everyone to start with a lower dose, but just on those specific people want to start with a lower dose and titrate up. You can go up to around that, 1,000 micrograms or 1,100 over a 4-week period. But you want to make sure you're checking your levels every 4 to 6 weeks. If you are lower than when you started, then you probably need a higher dose. In some cases, you may come out like much higher. In that case, you need a lower dose. Each time you check your levels, you should be, again, looking to see, should be avoiding the iodine for up to 3 days before you do the test. This will ensure that the dose that you took that day and subsequent days is not still in your system, because you want to kind of look at what the total body levels are, and eventually you don't want to be supplementing with the iodine every day, or find out what that dose is that's not going to increase or lower your levels and keep your thyroid function normal. All right, so that's all I had for this video. How much iodine do you need to take? How much is too much? How much is too little? Hopefully that gives you a little bit of deeper understanding of, how to go about supplementing with iodine when, you want to optimize it, or maybe you have a low thyroid function and you want to improve your thyroid function through iodine. Again, it can cause problems if you get too much. Too little can also be an issue, but make sure you're not overdoing it. So if you have any questions about the iodine situation, you can hit me up in the comments. If you like the video, please click on the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll be producing more videos like this in the future. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.